Welcome to the LemnaTec Academy. In this video, we will have a first look into LemnaExperiment. I will explain all the sections and pages of the software as well as some basic concepts. This video will be based on version 24.11 of LemnaExperiment. If you use another version of LemnaExperiment, your experience may differ in parts. But before we start, we have to discuss some terminology. Lemna control is about recording objects such as pots, trays, petri dishes, or microdata plates. These are identified in Lemna control by their sample ID. However, these images may include multiple plants or wells. They might differ in some respect, such as genotype or treatment within the same image. In terms of analysis and result evaluation, these individual plants or wells are the actual samples. Therefore, the samples of Lemna control are called vessels in LemnaExperiment, and the individual plants or wells are called samples. Vessels may contain multiple samples or just one. In order to manage the data in the system, we organize the recordings and other data into experiments. Each experiment is a collection of all recordings, analysis results, and other data taken with a common purpose. With most experiments, you will record the same data multiple times at different points in time. We call it one run each time you take another set of recordings for your experiment. Therefore, all recordings done virtually at the same time belong to the same run. In other words, a run contains all recordings made by pressing a single button. With large systems such as PhenoExpert HT with its conveyor, a run will contain multiple recordings of multiple vessels. This may go into the hundreds or thousands for really large systems. On the other hand, with small systems, a run may contain just a single recording. Finally, a snapshot contains all recordings made of the same vessel in the same run. An analysis definition contains all information required to execute a specific analysis on some snapshots. This may include a vessel configuration. A vessel configuration defines where to find individual samples within an image. Each analysis job combines then an analysis definition with a snapshot. So the analysis executor knows how to execute the analysis of the snapshot. So with these bits of terminology out of the way, let's go into LemnaExperiment. After we start with LemnaExperiment from the icon on the desktop, you will get this splash screen. While this screen is shown, LemnaExperiment loads basic data from the database, so you can work right away. See also the progress bar at the bottom. The bigger your database is, the longer this may take. LemnaExperiment actually opens two windows. The second is a DOS command window, which you can securely ignore. The first page of LemnaExperiment you see is the overview page. LemnaExperiment is organized in pages. You find the buttons to select these pages on the left. Let's quickly skip through them. The first page is the overview page, where we already are. The experiments page displays basic information on the experiments stored in your database. The sample annotation page provides you with the option to annotate your samples. This will become quite useful later in the process when you look on the results of your analyses and try to interpret them. One of the most important pages is the recordings page. Here you find all your data and images you have recorded so far, including their metadata. The next page is actually a set of pages. All these pages deal with different aspects of creating, starting, and managing analyses. On the results page, you can evaluate the results you obtained with your image analysis. This again has subpages. one with a results table and one with a plot tool. But on the top level result page, you get an overview over all experiments and analysis results found in your database. The final page is the Explorer page. On this page, you find tools that support the machine learning devices of LemnaGrid. In later versions, it will also provide you with a set of tools for explorative analysis. The last button is not associated with the page. It is the exit button by which you close LemnaExperiment. At the bottom of this navigation, you find 5 smaller buttons. The question mark button opens the online documentation page. Here you can find information on almost every aspect of LemnaExperiment. The I button opens the so-called About page. This shows you copyright and license information and the changelog. The Next button opens a page where you can look into the logs of the database import process. But be careful, this page can be quite slow. Next we have the Settings button. In this page you can change various settings. With the last button you can reload the data from the database. Sometimes there will be one more button above the Exit button. At the same time, the green bar at the top turns red. This indicates that the connection to your database was lost. The additional button is called Reconnect. If you press the button, LemnaExperiment will try to reconnect to the database. If successful, the button disappears and the bar at the top turns green again. Let's get back to the Overview page. Here we find an overview on the current content of your database. At the top you find the timeline with the latest recordings you have made. Right to it, you see an overview of the database content in more technical terms. How many experiments, snapshots and recordings are found in the database and how much of your storage has been used. The next row shows data from the experiment which has the newest recordings. This includes some images and some information on the experiment's size. Below this, the same information is presented for the largest experiment and the experiment last analyzed. But that's not all here. You may have noticed the arrows in the title bar, the gray one on the left and the blue one on the right. This indicates that we have one more page to the right. On the second overview page, you find similar information, but organized in a more technical way, which represents the logic of the data flow between the components. Let's have another quick look into the experiments page. On this page, we have another recurring pattern of LemnaExperiment. You have a list of objects, each with a name and other information. Below this list, you find one or more buttons. Usually, there's one new button on the right. In this case, a new experiment button. On the left of each entry in this list, we have a set of buttons. The actual selection of these buttons varies with context, but the first 4 are pretty common. The I, or information button, displays a summary of the object. Here, the experiment. The second button will open an edit dialog, more on this in a second. The third button will duplicate the entry and the fourth button will delete it. The fifth button is unique to the experiments page. With this button you can archive an experiment by copying all data into one file. If you press the edit button for an experiment, you will switch to the edit page. As you already may have noticed, this page has actually a second page. At most places in LemnaExperiment, you have this kind of list page with an edit page besides it. And you can switch back and forth between them. That's it for this video. We hope you got a first impression of LemnaExperiment. In the next video, we will look with more detail into the experiments page. See you there. Welcome to the LemnaTec Academy.